Afternoon, everyone. Great pleasure to be here. Thanks to the Reed corporate team for putting on this event. It's always good to get out and be able to tell our story. As Paul touched upon, Centaurus has been focused in Brazil for nearly 15 years now, so we have a very good understanding of what's going on there. We started life looking at iron ore projects. We've looked at copper projects, we've looked at gold projects, but about 4 years ago we picked up an extremely good nickel sulfide project called Jaguar, and we did that by acquiring it from Vale. And that was all about being in the right place at the right time, having the creds in country and demonstrating that we can actually do the work and take these projects forward. So I guess over the last couple of years our focus is about on growing a Brazilian strategic minerals business, and Jaguar and the nickel that we've got is the lead to that. But we are also looking at new opportunities in that space, leveraging the connection that we've got with Vale to find new opportunities. They may be in copper, they may be other nickel projects, but there's definitely strong relationships that enables us to continue to press home that sort of strategy. Just looking at the nickel for the time being, what we've got is a world-class resource. It's nearly 1 million tonnes of contained nickel metal. We have an extremely low carbon footprint associated with this project because 80% of Brazil's power is renewably sourced coming into the grid. And we've got a platform now to actually go off and build this project. And hopefully through the course of this presentation, you'll actually get a sense for where we're located in this region of Brazil called the Carajás Mineral Province that has an enormous amount of infrastructure already there. It's got a history of mining with 50 years of Vale development in various projects. And there's new projects that are being built that clearly demonstrate that you can actually build a project like what we're talking about here with Jaguar. A couple of probably nearly a month ago now, we have made a little bit of a pivot associated with our project. We were originally looking to take this project downstream and produce a nickel sulfate product. We've pulled that back for the time being, try to do this project in stages, focus on producing a concentrate in the first instance, and that's been driven by market conditions. Our market cap has been hit as much as any nickel story in Australia, albeit and hopefully through this presentation you'll also get a sense for it that we are quite different to a number of the nickel stories that might be here in Australia, which are more high cost. So I'll talk to the market cap at $150 million in the context of what we're looking to achieve with Jaguar and where that ultimately will sit. There's a feasibility study going on now which we're looking to deliver in June, and hopefully that those economics that we will show in that feasibility study will dwarf that market cap. Our goal with this project is to be able to sit side by side and compete with where this new supply of nickel is coming into the global market, which is from Indonesia. And so whilst that Indonesian market has forced a lot of the nickel sulfide production to shut in Australia because of the relatively high cost, we think that Jaguar and what we've got in Brazil will be different to that because of the low cost structure. You can go to some of that brokerage coverage. They've got some numbers of where they think it might land. Obviously the proof's in the pudding when we deliver the feasibility study in June, but that'll at least give you as investors some sense of where the direction of travel might go in respect to the economics. We have a good team on our board, both in Australia and Brazil, and they will all be here to get the job done. So when you look at the market, I think the short-termism around the nickel coming out of Indonesia and the noise that is associated with that has really scared the Australian market. And rightly so, there's been a number of shutdowns, a number of projects going on to care and maintenance, but I think Centaurus has been put into that same camp when in fact I don't think that should be the case. So in order for us to, validate our assumptions, we need to demonstrate through this feasibility study that we will be a low cost producer and we will sit in the lowest quartile of costs on a global basis. If we can do that, then we will get offtake support. In all likelihood, Jaguar, just as on the open pitable material that we have, is something in the order of 15 to 20 years of mine life. And so the combination of that volume with the likely cost structure of where we think it will be, combined with the fact that we have very low emission footprint associated with the project, should put us in a very, very good position to attract funding for what we're trying to do. Now, you roll forward with these charts, and again, you can take them with a grain of salt, but this is data coming out of Wood Mackenzie. Benchmark Intelligence will have similar looking data that basically says if you look at what's happening in North America, you look at what's happening in Europe, there's still got to be a lot more nickel to be found. And if you roll that forward, you know, there's a huge amount of gigafactory capacity that needs to be built, and it hasn't happened yet. So whilst this supply out of Indonesia has dampened price, roll forward to 27, 2028, then you're still going to see deficits in the nickel market, and that's where projects like ours are looking to come on stream. And even at that point in time, we would be expecting prices to push higher. If you look at what's required in volume-wise, there's probably about 85 Jaguars that are going to be required by 2040. So it feels like that with a large resource and the right credentials, that we're in a very good position with this project. And certainly from an investment proposition, we think it's compelling. We've updated what our emissions are going to look like in relation to this project. The size of what we do enables us to go to the open market for power in Brazil. As I said earlier, 80% of Brazil's grid power comes from renewable sources already. By the time we look to secure our power, we'll probably be 100% renewably sourced power, and that lends itself very much to where we sit on the emissions curve right down the bottom there on the left. You see there's a lot of other groups that might be at 20, 30, 40 tonnes of carbon per tonne of nickel. We're sitting under 10. And that is including Scope 3 emissions of freight and ultimate downstream processing. So I'll quickly run through the rest of the project. You can come and see us at our booth to understand sort of ins and outs of it a little bit more. You know, as I said, we've been in Brazil a long time. We know how to operate there. There's a lot of positives, a 15% tax rate for the first 10 years because of where we're located. The fact that royalties go back into the local municipalities is a big driver for community support for the project. It does create a lot of jobs, but fundamentally that renewably sourced power is a huge advantage for Brazil, and you're starting to see a lot more investment go in there, a lot more companies looking at rare earths, looking at lithium, looking at copper, looking at gold. We're located in the northern part of Brazil in an area called the Carajás Mineral Province. It's essentially farmland historically, cattle grazing country. But what you do have there is 50 years of investment from Vale into some seriously big projects. So top of page, Salobo mine, biggest copper mine in Brazil, doing about 35 million tonnes of ore through that mill. Middle of the page, you've got S11D, which is the largest, highest grade iron ore deposit globally. Nearly 4 or 5 billion tonnes at 65, 66% iron. So with that, there's been a lot of infrastructure there. There's road, there's rail, there's high voltage power, and there's now second, third generation mining families who have been based in this area for a long period of time. What I like about it though is that there's new entrants into this space. So just 40 kilometres from where we are, you can sort of see bottom left of that map is a Boa Esperança project. It's a copper project that's being built by a group called Ero Copper, that TSX listed. They're about 2.5 billion market cap. But they're building a 4 million tonne per annum copper float plant. You know, we're looking at a 3.5 million tonne float plant for our project. So very, very similar as far as size and scale and what can actually be achieved. And they'll build that project and be wet commissioning in the space of about 20 months from when they move first dirt. And just the bottom right there, you can see photos of the Ero Copper build that's going on right now with their crusher and all of their conveyor belts. So I was there in February and it's a very impressive piece of work. We will be trucking to this port on screen, Vila do Conde port, looking to export out of there. The dams there are the hydro dams that are supplying all that power for renewably sourced purposes. And the two towns where we are about 35,000 each. Again, ready-made workforce in the towns where we're based. The resource is sitting at just under 1 million tonnes of contained nickel metal. We're looking for the feasibility study just at the open pit mineralisation I'll show you a couple of cross-sections in a moment that show that this mineralisation keeps going at depth and that we will have future underground activities at the project. Large portion of the resource is now sitting in the measured and indicated. We've done all the open pit optimisations. We've got our mine plan. That's all being fed into the feasibility study. Sorry, just go back for a sec. But those pits that are sitting there, they'll be about 3 kilometres of strike. So again, a very large deposit. Not too many of these situated around the world. These sections here, again, demonstrate, you can see the pits at surface, but we've drilled down to 1,000 metres deep and still hit mineralisation. We do have a lot of confidence that the resource is going to grow from the 1 million tonnes we've already got. There's 50,000 metres of drilling that we completed in 2023 that hasn't flown into resources yet, and that work will be done over the next few months. So Jaguar sits very comfortably with a lot of the major nickel camps, nickel sulphide camps around the globe. There are a number of deposits globally that are much bigger but lower grade. There's a number of deposits that are higher grade but much smaller and more underground. So the combination of relatively high grade, open pittable mineralisation of relatively large size puts us in quite a unique position. Last year we were able to close out the offtake rights that Vale had from the original acquisition, and that now means that all of our nickel units are unencumbered. That allows us to be able to have funding discussions, offtake discussions with various groups, which will go a long way to funding the project. And the number one driver for us is to try to keep equity dilution at the corporate level at the minimum. And we think that we'll be able to do that because of the way that the project is now set up. A couple of schematics just about where we're going with the project. Again, relatively simple. You see the pits there and the waste dump and tailings dam in the background. We're working through all the capital and operating cost numbers right now. We're pulling all of that together and, as I said, hopefully looking to deliver that in June. It's now a very traditional, very well-known flotation circuit, nothing complicated about it. As I said, targeting about 3.5 million tonnes a year from this circuit. And you've seen these all over the globe. But what, as I said earlier, is extremely important to me is that Aero, just down the road from us, have already shown that a project of this size and scale can be built in this region, it can be done quickly, and it can be done for a relatively attractive capital cost. Brazil always has a little bit of pushback in relation to approvals, how long is it going to take. I would challenge anyone that I think Brazil will actually get through approval processes quicker than a lot of other countries around the globe right now. So we've completed our environmental impact assessment. We've had that approved. So we've got our, what they call the preliminary licence, already issued to us. We've also had the technical approval of the mining lease already granted by the Mines Department in Brazil. So there's a few other steps to follow, but those are the most important steps from an approval point of view. So we see no issue from an approvals perspective on getting the project up and running. There's a quick timeline, again, looking to complete the feasibility study in June, make an investment decision in the early part of next year, look to get boots on the ground coming out of the wet season, which would be sort of around April next year, go through that construction phase and looking to be producing in 2027. So that's Jaguar, and I just have one slide here just for where we're going to next from a pipeline perspective. This again is a project that is in the Carajás. It was quite close to the main hub there called Parapebas. So it's our Boi Nova copper project. It's early stage. We're looking to drill this project starting in the next couple of weeks, but we've done all this sort of low-level early stage work. We've done our soils. We've got genuine IOCG targets here. We've done the IP survey. We've got fixed loop EM work going on right now. And as I said, we should have rigs there probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that could be quite interesting given where we see the copper market going right now. But what I think it demonstrates is our ability to pick up pipeline projects, to be able to bring them through, utilise the people that we've got, the resources that we've got with our exploration team, to continue to make new discoveries and develop new assets. So we're focused in Brazil. That's been clear. We've been there a long time. We know what we're doing. Jaguar as an asset is extremely strong and a very positive project. I I think, you know, the economics that we will demonstrate through the feasibility study, as I said, should dwarf where our market cap is. We think that there's a lot of mineralisation to be had and a lot of very strong economics. If you'd like more information about that, come and see us at a booth. I'm happy to chat through that a little bit more. Thank you.